You are welcome to this webinar organized by International Journal of Vocational and Technical Education Review and Propellers Publishers. The webinar is going to be facilitated by Vincent Siasogwa, Department of Agriculture Education and Extension, Faculty of Agriculture, University of Eswatini, Southern Africa. And the topic is best framework for writing a professional abstract, PPMDSRR. Now, the workshop objectives will be that at the end of this webinar, participants should be able to conceptualize abstract, conceptualize the meaning of abstract. They should be able to understand features of an abstract, importance of an abstract, when an abstract is required, the types of abstract, what to consider before writing a professional abstract, how to write a professional abstract, proportion of the components of a professional abstract, and then what to avoid in writing a professional abstract. Now, before we go to the meaning of an abstract, what do we mean by a professional abstract? When we talk of professional, we are talking of training. We're talking of area of specialization, where you are already trained, you have already acquired skills, is your profession. Is where you have grounded knowledge, skills and attitude of what you do, your area of specialization. Yes, in your area of specialization, there are ways of writing abstract. There are frameworks, and we're going to look at that. But before then, what is an abstract? An abstract is short summary that describes a longer work, such as thesis, dissertation, or research paper. In APA, they call it a short comprehensive summary. So understand that an abstract is a short comprehensive summary that describes a longer work, such as thesis, dissertation, or research paper. An abstract concisely reports the problem, aims, relevance, outcomes, and recommendations of a research work to provide readers with a quick overview of the work and its organization. An abstract contains full information and makes sense by itself without further reference to outside sources or to the actual paper. It is an original work, not an accepted passage. When you go through a comprehensive professional abstract, you'll be able to get the comprehensive information, complete information of what is contained in that paper. It has full information on its own that you may not require additional information by reading the paper itself. But there are some types of abstract that you may not have complete information. A lot of abstract has complete information. Now, what are the features of an abstract? An abstract usually contains 150 to 250 words or less in journal articles, but 500 or more for research projects. Like thesis and dissertation in our universities may be up to 500 or more, but must be within a paragraph. An abstract summarizes the major important aspect of a research paper. Usually, it is one paragraph long or less in a structured abstract. We're going to look at that. You are going to see what we mean by structured abstract. An abstract covers the problem, the purpose, the materials and methods used in conducting the study, the sample of the subjects, results and conclusion or implication or recommendations of the work. Sometimes an abstract gives the actual data for drawing the conclusion. But in most cases, an abstract is devoid of formula, technical jargons, abbreviations, acronym, among others. You are not expected to put abbreviation in your abstract, but where you must put an abbreviation, you are expected to have written it in full before the abbreviation or acronym. Why is abstract important? Abstract is just important for two things: selection of that paper and indexing purposes. Selection. Abstract allows readers who may be interested in the paper to quickly decide whether it is relevant to their purposes and whether they need to read the whole paper or even select it for conference presentation or workshops. Indexing. Most academic journal databases are accessed through the library, enable you to search abstract. So what it means is that indexing allows for quick retrieval by the users. The use of abstract during indexing of the database enables the users to quickly identify the work that will be relevant to what they want to do. An abstract must incorporate the key terms that a potential researcher would use to search for it. When is abstract required? Abstracts are usually required for part of a full article for publication, submission of articles to journals, application for research grants, completion and submission of thesis or dissertation, submission of proposals for conference papers. So these are the time you would require to write an abstract. What are the types of abstracts that we have? There are many types of abstract, but that depends on the basis for your classification. An abstract can be classified based on three factors. The first one is based on the structure of the abstract, and that is the arrangement of the components. The second one is based on the nature of information contained in that abstract. And the third one is based on the length of the abstract. Now, going one by one, we are going to look at the first one, structure of the abstract. Classifying abstract based on the structure, we have the unstructured abstract and the structured abstract. The unstructured abstracts are the traditional abstract we all are conversant with. We all know is written as a continuous paragraph, though they still cover the same information, but does not have any title specific for different parts. It is required that the content, order, or sequence of the items in an unstructured abstract are formulated as it is in the structured one. In this structured abstract is always one paragraph. and does not have any subheadings on them. The one that we are conversant with, we write in most of our universities. Now, that is unstructured abstract. Now, going to structured abstract. This has sections mentioned separately. You see where they mention aim. You are expected to write the aim of that paper, then purpose, study method, results, and conclusion. These are different subheadings within an abstract. The only difference is that the letter is arranged into separate subheadings, but the unstructured abstract is not arranged. They are lumped into one paragraph. Now, classification of abstracts based on the nature of information. There are 4 types of abstracts based on the nature of information contained. The first one is descriptive abstract, and this indicates the type of information found in the paper. Just as the name implies, descriptive, to indicate the information contained. It briefly explains the background, purpose, and objectives of the paper, but omits the results. Often the methods and sometimes also the conclusion are omitted. They are more like an outline of the work and are usually very short, just 1 to 200 words or less in length. Some researchers consider it an outline of the work rather than a summary. Second one is informative abstract. In informative abstract, it is 1 paragraph to 1 page in length. A truncated version of one's paper that summarizes every aspect of the study, like background, aim or purpose of the research, methods used, finding, results, conclusions. It acts as a surrogate for the research itself, standing in for the larger paper. With informative abstract, there may be no need for you to read the paper itself, because it gives a comprehensive information of the entire work. It describes, it points out every information that are needed there. The aim is there, the purpose is there, the method used, and even the results. Sometimes it extends to recommendation even. An informative abstract includes the information that can be found in a descriptive abstract, but it also includes the results and the conclusions of the research and the recommendations of the author. You know, the descriptive does not contain the result, it does not contain the recommendations. So the length varies according to this discipline, but an informative abstract is usually not more than 300 words in length. The majority of abstracts of theses and dissertations written at the universities are informative in nature. The third one is critical abstract. This provides, in addition to the describing main findings and information, a judgment or comment about the study's validity, reliability, or completeness. The critical information contains all the information that the first two, the descriptive and the informative, contain, but goes further to judge the validity of that paper, the validity of the study, the reliability of the study, and the completeness of that study. The researcher evaluates the paper and often compares it with other works on the same subject. And this is found in an abstract, and that is why it is called a critical abstract. Critical abstracts are generally 400 to 500 words in length due to the additional interpretative commentary. These types of abstracts are usually infrequently. They are used infrequently. They are not often used. Now, the last one, the fourth, is the highlight abstract. A highlight abstract is specifically written to attract the reader's attention to the study. No pretense is made of there being either a balanced or a complete picture of the paper. And in fact, incomplete and leading remarks may be used to spark the reader's interest. This abstract targets catching the interest of the readers. It may even go a long way to bring some information that may not be inside the work in order to captivate the interest of the readers so that they go further into the work. In that, a highlight abstract cannot stand independent of its associated article. It is not a true abstract and therefore rarely used in academic writing. University of Southern California. Now, classification of abstract. Remember, we are still on types of abstract. We're now classifying abstract based on the length of the abstract. And there are two, short abstract and extended abstract. Short abstract is normal abstract that we generally know. It is usually between 150 to 300 words in length. Those two ones we have been writing in our after our project, thesis, dissertation. They are all short abstract, all we write in our papers. But now, recently, though it has been there, but not frequently used, there is invention of that extended abstract. This extended abstract is expected to have a moderately detailed account of the work, consigned, including comparative statements and references, and a few figures. In other words, an extended abstract can be in the form of a short paper and can be between 2 to 5 pages. So note that extended abstract in most cases contains the summarized information of all the papers, and even the components or subheadings of all the papers are usually contained in the extended abstract, only that it is an abridged copy. Figures and even tables are found in the extended abstract and can even be published. In most cases, it can be published. Then we have what you have to consider before writing a professional abstract. Before you write a professional abstract, you must consider all these factors. Completion of your paper. Some people have been asking questions. When are you supposed to write your paper? Is it when you finish or before you start the paper? There's no two ways about it. An abstract is a summary of your paper. So there is no way you can write an abstract before you complete your paper. Those who do it, it is not correct and not a global practice. It is not a standard practice in university communities. You must first of all finish your paper before you can now summarize it into an abstract. Though there are some who are experienced that they try to write abstract before that. But when it goes to findings, what are you going to write if you have not carried out the study? So it is advisable that you finish your paper before you write an abstract. Then also consider your audience. I want you to know that your audience are everyone. Do not see your audience as those who are in your profession. If you are writing abstract, be as simple as ever so that whoever comes across your abstract will be able to understand. Communicate effectively in your abstract. Also consider the type of abstract you want to write. Is it informative abstract? Is it descriptive? Is it critical? Or is it highlight? Is it a long or short abstract? Then what of the format? You need to know the format of your abstract. Many use APA format, where you have one paragraph without being indented. no paragraph. Just one paragraph, no indenting, is a block paragraph. Appropriate voice and tenses. What are you going to use? Are you going to use active or passive voice? Are you using present or past tense? Consider which one you want to use. Now, also be mindful of your word counts. What does the paper require? Is it 100 words or 150 or 250 words? So you have to consider the number of words that are required. The next thing is that you familiarize yourself with the specific or the desired journal that you want to write your abstract. Familiarize yourself with it so that you know the way they write their abstract. Is this a structured abstract or is it unstructured abstract that the journal requires? How to write a professional abstract. How? This is the center of this webinar. This is the thrust of this webinar. How to write a professional abstract. And on how to write a professional abstract, we will take you through 8 frameworks. We have 8 frameworks. We have here summarized 8 frameworks of how to write a professional abstract, 8 frameworks that you can use to write your abstract. The first one is Pmri. This P, the first P there is problem, M is method, R is result, and I is the implications, which sometimes are called the conclusions. The second one is the PPMRR. The first P is the problem of the study. The second P is the purpose of the study. Then M is the method of the study, which could be qualitative, quantitative, mixed method, or triangulation. The first R is the result of the study, and the last R, the second R, is the recommendations of the study. Now, the third framework says PMRR. The first P is the purpose. Now remember, no longer the problem. It goes straight to the purpose. M, the method, R, the result, and the last R, the recommendation. This is the one that is common that most of us have been using. When we want to write abstract, we will go straight to say, this study identified, or this study explored, or this study determined. You go straight to the purpose. That is common among us. But today we will tell you that it is not the best because it may even fail during research grants. It's not the best. Now, the fourth one says PMRC. What is different here? The first P is purpose, this M is method, R is the result, and C is the conclusion. No recommendation in this case. Then the fifth one is Pmri. Pmri is common also. It's common. Even APA recommends Pmri. Pmri, what does it I means? It means the introduction. Sometimes people see introduction as the problem, but that is not what they said. Here they said introduction. M is method, R is results, and D is the discussion. This is the only place that mentioned discussion. This is the only framework that mentioned discussion. Now, the sixth one on the framework for writing professional abstract is PPDRC. The first P is problem, the second P is purpose, and the D here is the design of the study. R is the result, and C is the conclusion. This is the first one that mentioned design that to be included in the abstract. Now, the seventh one is PSMRC. P here is either the purpose or the problem. either the purpose or the problem. The S here is the sample, the M is the method, the R is the result, and the C is the conclusion, implication or recommendation. This is according to APA. Now, you can see that it is only APA that mentioned sample here. It is only APA that mentioned sample or population. Now, the last one, which is 8, is the framework that we developed, which we call the best framework for writing professional abstract. And how does it go? Here we have the PPMDSRR. Now, the first P is the problem to investigate. The second P is the purpose of the study. The M here is the method of the research, which we have said could be qualitative, quantitative, mixed method, or triangulation. Then the D here is the design of the study, which could be descriptive, which could be correlational, which could be ex post facto, which could be quasi-experimental. Now, then we have the S. The S here is the sample. The S here is the sample. And in most cases, when you mention the sample, you could say a sample of these was taken out of the population. So sample is very important here. Sample is very important here, even though it's not included here, but try to include it. This is what sample here is. The S stands for sample. Then the first R is the result of the analysis, and the last R, the second R, which is the last R there, is the recommendation or the implication. And this is developed by Asogwa 2022. I want you to note that instrument for data collection, validation, reliability, and method of data collection and analysis are reported if the number of words required have not been exceeded. It is very important. They are good. But in most cases, people concentrate on the result rather than what you use to find the result. It is when they see the result that they will think of how you arrived at the result. So that is why it is very important you take all these ones we have mentioned, the PP, MD, SRR. We also want you to note that some abstracts, like funded research grants, may contain significance of the study, limitations of the study, and implications or suggestions for further research. Note that. In some abstracts, like research for grant, you may see where there is significance contained in that, even limitation contained in an abstract, even implication or suggestion for further studies after recommendation is also contained there. So it's just for you to have the information. Depends on, remember we told you what you need to consider. The last one is for you to familiarize yourself with the desired journal or profession or agency that you want to write the abstract for. Now, what is the proportion of the components of a professional abstract? An abstract usually spends 25% of each space on the purpose and importance of the research. That's the introduction, if you are using Pmri. Now, 25% of their space on what you did, and that is method. And now 35%, note this, 35% of their space on what you found, that is the result. Remember we told you that people concentrate on the result. That's why here, George Mason University 2022 recommended 35% of the space of your abstract should be on result. Then 15% of the space should be on the implication. These are the proportions. Then what to avoid in a professional abstract. These are the things you should not do in a professional abstract. Do not make it do not have a lengthy background or contextual information that may not be necessary. Redundant phrases, unnecessary adverbs, and adjectives, and repetitive information are not needed. They are not needed. They are not wanted on this in the abstract. Acronyms and abbreviations should be avoided. References to other literature, for example, current research shows that phrase of citations, they are not necessary. Studies have indicated these things are not necessary. Using ellipticals, like ending with in inverted comma or incomplete sentences, should be avoided. You also need to avoid jargon, terms that may be confusing to the readers. Remember, we told you that your readers may be those who are even outside your profession. So using jargon, technical jargon may confuse them, and they may get disinterested on going further to read your work. Citations to other works are not necessary. Avoid them. Any sort of image, illustration, figure, or table, or references to them should be avoided. And this is the recommendation of the University of Southern California. Quoting instead of paraphrasing and summarizing from the paper. Do not quote should be avoided. Do not. Quoting instead of paraphrasing and summarizing from the paper should be avoided. So these are the things you need to consider. Now let's look at the example here using PPMDSRR framework. If you look at it, we say adoption of ethical considerations in education research is a serious concern to most universities in and outside Africa. This is an introduction. This is on the problem. Irrespective of the outstanding benefits of ethical consideration to quality research, lecturers' level of awareness was still questionable, coupled with a lot of challenges that hinder its adoption in Nigerian universities. I've told you the problem. Therefore, this study sought to describe now the purpose, to describe the lecturer's level of awareness, constraints to adoption, and enhancement strategies for effective and sustainable adoption of ethical considerations for quality research in Nigerian universities. The objectivity approach was adopted by the researchers with a quantitative research method and descriptive survey design. Here, three things are included: research approach, research method, and the research design. Out of 281 lecturers in colleges or faculties of education in Nigerian universities, a sample of 394 lecturers was obtained through multi-stage sampling techniques. Remember, we have mentioned population here and we have mentioned sample. Lecturers' research ethical considerations adoption questionnaire was developed, validated, and trial-tested on 23 lecturers using the Cronbach-Alpha method, which yielded a reliability coefficient of 8.87. Here, the instrument was mentioned, validation was covered, trial testing was covered, and the method used for trial testing was also covered. With 96.81% collection of data from the total sample, the findings showed, among others, that lecturers are lowly aware of the ethical considerations in ethical research, in education research, let alone adopting them. Here, we told you the percentage of the retrieval rate from the field for you to know, and we are giving you the findings. Major constraints reported: denial of the ethical research clearance, demand for gratification before approval, exorbitant cost implication, ethical abuse by the respondents, among others. Relevant strategies identified and recommended to improve the adoption of ethical consideration include the inclusion of ethical consideration as a subheading in students' research works, setting up research ethics committees for ethical clearance, research ethics monitoring committees, and mediating between concept approval agencies and students. These is just 242 words. This is a professional abstract. I wish you good luck. If you have any question, feel free to contact us on through this email address. Thank you and God bless you. Bye for now.